You know, Joe, those purgatorial waiting rooms at Paramount circa 97, the ones for seasoned professional number 3 or judge with a secret past. The beige walls, the plastic plants. The scripts always open to the same two-page scene, inevitably involving a stern declaration or the exposition of some convoluted plot point. The utter sterility of it all, actively working to sap any creative spark before you even stepped into the room.
Oh, the waiting rooms. Phil, you're talking about the real horror, not just the scripts, though those were bad, trust me. I'm talking about the chairs, those goddamn blue vinyl chairs that always smelled vaguely of desperation and old coffee. You'd sit there, right, trying to look nonchalant, practicing your lines under your breath. "I got the goods, boss, I swear it," again. And then you'd look around, and every other schmo in that room was practicing the exact same line. All of us, the same weasels, the same informants, trying to put a new spin on, "I can get you a guy," or, "He's got the information, boss." It was a goddamn carnival of anxiety, I tell ya. A competition of who could look most shifty. The pressure, the tension, murder on the nerves, every single time.
The lines were the true insult, Joe. The dialogue for seasoned professional was always so functional, devoid of subtext, just. The evidence suggests, or I believe we have a solid case. No room to operate, no subtext. You'd try to infuse it with something, a flicker of humanity, but the casting director just wanted the gravitas, the presence, not the prepageration. They wanted the figure, not the man.
Gravitas. I had gravitas. I could make my eyes do things. But they always wanted the shifty eyes, the nervous tick. I remember this one time, at Warner Brothers, for Shady Contact Number 2. This casting director, a woman with a voice like a chalkboard. Remember her? Denise? She kept telling me. More anxious, Joe. More like you're about to wet yourself. I'm thinking, lady, I am about to wet myself. Just from sitting in your waiting room for 3 hours with Tony the Shark, and Vinny the Nose, and Frankie the Finger, all vying for the same 2 lines, and then they hand you a fake cell phone, right? You gotta whisper conspiratorially into it. Like improv, but with your career on the line.
The indignity, Joe. The sheer, repetitive indignity of being reduced to a single, easily categorized archetype, to stand there, performing a pantomime of competence or duplicity, when you knew there was more, to be measured by the breadth of your shoulders or the tremor in your voice, rather than the depth of your soul. It was a factory, not an art form. You'd leave feeling lighter, as if something vital had been sapped. But look, Joe, I brought you here to talk about the project, the one that got away.
So Phil, you said you had something you wanted to air out, so to speak? You mentioned a passion project. Color me intrigued. I've heard whispers over the years.
Indeed, Joe. Not so much air out as clarify. There's a distinction. And passion project implies a certain youthful exuberance I have long since discarded. This is a necessary project, a rectification, a ledger finally balanced.
A rectification. I like that. Sounds serious. Lay it on me, Phil. You know I'm all ears for anything from you.
It's a film, naturally, one I wrote, and attempted to secure funding for, to no avail. A common enough tale, you might say, but the reasons for its rejection, those were instructive and regrettable. The working title, and it is a working title, mind you, but one that aptly describes its core, is simply this: the impeccable logic of erosion.
Whoa. The impeccable logic of erosion. That's got some weight to it, Phil. Heavy. I like it. Sounds like a book I should have read.
It aims to. Now, to truly appreciate the endeavor, one must first grasp the visual foundation. We open on a tableau. Not a dramatic flourish, no overwrought sentimentality, no single red rose wilting in a gutter, as some might prefer. That's for lesser talents, aiming for immediate, unearned pathos. We open on a single, perfectly formed dust mote, singular, caught in a precisely angled shaft of late afternoon light, slicing through the stained glass window of a meticulously ordered study. The camera, ideally on a Panavision anamorphic lens, resolves these infinitesimal particles with an almost painful clarity, each speck suspended, almost defiant, in the absolute stillness of the air. A quiet hum. The hum is not merely audible, it's felt, a resonant frequency that suggests permanence. We track slowly, almost imperceptibly, towards a desktop. An antique brass microscope sits there, gleaming, precise. It is trained on a single, desiccated flywing, a specimen of minimal consequence, yet observed with maximum scrutiny. The lens flares, just so, catching the edge of a stack of impeccably neat, handwritten index cards. Order, precision, a world defined by exactitude. And then, a slight tremor, not the camera, not the building, but a barely perceptible vibration from the desk itself, disrupting the motes, just for a fraction of a second, a ripple across the surface of absolute control.
Man, that's an opening. You can feel that hum, that tremor, like a crack in the foundation of the world. Heavy stuff, Phil.
Precisely. The crack. The film centers on Professor Elias Thorne, a man I would portray, a retired luminary in the field of epistemology, renowned for his razor-sharp mind and an unwavering commitment to empirical truth. A man who, over decades, built his life, his career, his very identity on the bedrock of certainty. Every question had an answer. Every anomaly, a logical explanation. He taught that chaos was merely order yet to be understood. Hollywood, as you well know, Joe, has a peculiar tendency to streamline, to distill an actor into an essence. For me, that essence, particularly in the latter half of my career, became the stern, knowing authority figure. The detective who sees the hidden truth, the judge who pronounces it. The seasoned professional whose weary gaze discerns the lie. And I am grateful, profoundly so, for the opportunities. For the consistent work, that there was always a reservation, a quiet frustration. While those roles allowed me to inhabit a certain gravitas, to convey a world weariness that came with observation, they rarely ventured into the true depths of internal disquiet. They often required me to know, to command, to project an exterior of resolute certainty, even in roles like Sidney, or indeed Nixon, where the internal conflict was profound. The external presentation was still one of control, of calculation, of a formidable, if fractured, presence. The psychological landscape was complex, yes, but often contained, observed from a distance. My ambition, Joe, was always to explore the other side of that coin. What happens when the man of absolute certainty becomes absolutely uncertain? When the formidable presence crumbles, not from external force, but from an internal, almost imperceptible decay? This role, Elias Thorne, is precisely that exploration. It is the corrective.
So you're taking that knowing authority you always play, and you're flipping it on its head. You're making you the guy who doesn't know, the guy who's losing it. That's brilliant, Phil. That's some meta commentary right there.
You grasp it precisely, Joe. Thorne, in his pristine, silent study, begins to notice anomalies. Small, almost imperceptible shifts. A book, always precisely aligned on its shelf, now sits a millimeter out of place. The intricate patterns of dust on his polished mahogany desk, which he observes daily, are subtly altered, not by cleaning, but by some unseen disturbance. His carefully measured morning coffee, a ritual spanning decades, tastes different. Not bad, just not right. Initially, he dismisses these observations. Age, perhaps. A trick of the light. A momentarily lapsed attention. But Thorne is a man whose life is a testament to rigorous observation. He cannot simply ignore what his senses, honed by a lifetime of academic scrutiny, tell him. He begins to document these occurrences. With the same meticulousness he once applied to philosophical treatises, he records every misplaced object, every unusual sound, that subtle, resonant hum, every deviation from his established, known reality. His mind, trained in the art of deduction and the pursuit of truth, first concludes a logical explanation. Someone is subtly gaslighting him. A disgruntled former student, perhaps, a mischievous relative. He sets up rudimentary surveillance, hidden cameras, tripwires, microsensors. He constructs elaborate, if silent, traps designed to catch the perpetrator of these subtle assaults on his sanity.
So it becomes a kind of academic thriller? A very quiet cat and mouse?
It begins that way. But the genius, you see, the true horror, is that the traps yield nothing. No one. The surveillance footage shows only an empty room, then Thorne himself, entering, meticulously arranging his books, then leaving. Yet, when he returns, the book is again out of place. The dust patterns, subtly shifted. The hum persists, always just at the edge of his perception, an auditory phantom. And slowly, glacially, Thorne's certainty begins to erode. He moves from external deduction to internal interrogation. Is it age, as he first considered? Is he, the great Professor Thorne, succumbing to dementia? Or is it something far more insidious? Is his perception itself being recalibrated? Is the very fabric of his reality, a reality he has spent a lifetime defining and dissecting, subtly, irrevocably coming apart at the seams? We witness his internal struggle. The precise, analytical mind, designed to bring order to chaos, now turns its formidable intellectual apparatus upon itself and finds only chaos. He attempts to logically disprove his own observations. He creates hypotheses for his own madness. He tests the reliability of his senses, subjecting himself to a battery of self-administered cognitive tests, comparing his results daily, watching the subtle, terrifying decline in his own processing speed, his recall.
That's profoundly unsettling, Phil. To be a prisoner in your own mind, when your mind is your greatest asset. It's like Cube, but all internal.
The film descends into a slow-burn psychological horror, not of jump scares, but of existential dread. Thorne, the man who knew everything, is confronted with the horrifying possibility that he knows nothing, and that his very capacity to know is failing him. The climax, such as it is, arrives not in a dramatic confrontation, but in a quiet, devastating realization. He sits in his study, the hum now a constant presence, the books all subtly askew, the dust patterns shifting like ocean currents. He holds an old photograph, his wife, long deceased. He looks at it, and for the first time, he isn't certain it's her. The face is familiar, yes, but the details, are they right? Had her eyes always been that shade? Had her smile always curved in precisely that manner? The impeccable logic that defined his life now dictates that even his most cherished memories, his most fundamental truths, are susceptible to this relentless, silent erosion. The film ends with a close-up on my face, as Thorne. Not a tear, not an outcry, just a vacant, profound stillness. The authority, the certainty, the intellectual vigor, all gone. Replaced by an emptiness, the ultimate silence. The film is not about what is happening to him, but the experience of it, the terror of the internal dissolution, from the perspective of the one enduring it.
That's a brutal ending, Phil. No redemption? No moment of clarity? Even a tragic one? Just gone?
Redemption is for stories of external conflict, Joe. For narratives where a hero confronts an antagonist or a moral failing. This is a story of entropy, of decay, the inherent, undeniable truth of everything, even the mind, being subject to decline. To offer a moment of clarity would be a sentimental lie. The clarity, in this instance, is the realization of the absolute, inescapable loss. It's a philosophical statement, not a narrative one. And that, Joe, is why it wouldn't get funded. They wanted a culprit. They wanted a journey. They wanted, perhaps, a bittersweet acceptance. They wanted me to be the detective who solves the mystery of his own mind, or the stoic figure who faces his decline with grace. They wanted the character they understood. They wanted the authority figure. They did not want the authority figure consumed by the very doubt he spent a lifetime meticulously dismantling. They missed the point. My ambition was not to play a different kind of authority. My ambition was to play a man whose authority, whose very foundation, was utterly annihilated from within, to strip away the layers of knowing, of command, of control, and reveal the profound vulnerability beneath, to show the man who has seen it all, and in the end, sees nothing at all. That, I believe, is the truest, most challenging performance I could ever have given.
Philly, that is a lot. That is a hell of a lot. I mean, it's not exactly a feel-good movie, is it? But wow. The thought you put into that, the depth, like. I can absolutely see why you wanted to play that part. It's like tearing down the whole damn house just to show the rotten timbers underneath. It's brave. Terrifying, but brave. Okay. That is a lot. But hear mine. Phil, my man, what a day, huh? Yeah, sometimes I walk into these studios, these podcast things, and it's like walking into a damn alien spaceship, you know? All these wires, these glowing buttons, PSHH. In my day, you had a microphone, maybe a cigar, and you just talked. No algorithms, no content strategy, just raw, honest-to-God conversation. Am I right?
You certainly are, Joe. It's a different landscape.
Different landscape, different everything. And that's what I wanted to talk to you about, Phil. Because I got a story, that's been marinating in my gut, bouncing around my head like a pinball machine for decades. This ain't no script I bought, no studio pitch. This is me. This is my soul on a goddamn platter, you understand? My vanity project. The one that, bless their cotton socks, Hollywood just ain't got the balls for. Not yet, anyway.
Oh, do tell. Always fascinating to hear what you've been brewing, Joe.
You ready for this? The title alone, it's gonna make you lean in. It's gonna make you think. It's gonna make you question everything you thought you knew about your pal Joey Pants. It's called The Saint of Second Chances.
The Saint of Second Chances. Intriguing. A departure, perhaps, from some of your more memorable character names?
Memorable? You mean like Guido the Weasel Barzini? Or Cypher, the dude who literally betrays humanity for a steak? Yeah, you could say it's a departure, because this, Phil, this ain't no weasel. This ain't no rat. This ain't no shifty informant trying to save his own skin, you understand? This is a man. A man, flawed, yeah, but a man trying to do some good, in a world that's gone completely off the rails.
I can appreciate that.
So listen, the vision, right? We shoot this thing on glorious, old school 70 millimeters, man. Like Lawrence of Arabia, but with more existential dread and, maybe a few less camels. And the opening shot? Oh, the opening shot, Phil, it sets the tone. We open on a single, worn-out pair of men's shoes, brown leather, scuffed at the toes, sitting perfectly aligned outside a modest apartment door in a very specific, slightly forgotten, working-class neighborhood in North Bergen, New Jersey. Light is that soft, pre-dawn blue, just before the sun actually commits to showing up. Panavision lens, deep focus, you can see the dew on the cracked linoleum of the hallway floor, the faint shadow of a crucifix on the wall, the way the light catches the dust motes dancing in the air. The silence is profound, almost oppressive. And then, a single, rhythmic thump-thump-thump starts. Not loud, not aggressive. It's a steady, almost comforting sound. We slowly zoom in, slew-owly, on the shoes. And as we do, the sound intensifies, revealing itself to be the soft, steady rhythm of a man kneading bread. Not pounding, mind you, but kneading. A meditative, almost holy rhythm. We never see his face, not yet, just his hands, flour-dusted, strong, calloused, working the dough with an almost paternal tenderness. The camera holds, just on the hands and the rhythmic kneading, for a full, glorious 90 seconds. No dialogue, just the sound of the bread. It's a statement, Phil. It says, this ain't what you think it is.
Kneading bread in North Bergen. That's quite specific, Joe. And the camera wincing, as you say.
Yeah, Phil. Specificity, man. That's where the truth lives. And the wincing camera. That was from my other pitch, the surveillance tapes of a lonely heart. But it fits here too. It's all connected. It's all about what you don't see on the surface. Because that's who I play, Phil. That's the guy that first wrote for me. My character is Carmine the Baker Moretti. And yeah, he actually owns a small neighborhood bakery. He's the guy who opens the shop at 4 a.m., bakes the best cannolis, the best sourdough, the best goddamn sfogliatelle this side of Naples, you understand? He's quiet. Observant. He listens. He sees things. He looks like, a regular guy. Maybe a little tired around the eyes. Maybe a little familiar to some folks who've seen a few things in their lives, if you catch my drift. But here's the kicker, Phil. Here's where it gets good. Carmine. He used to be me. Or, rather, the version of me that Hollywood thinks I am. He used to be a low-level guy, a go-between, a bagman, a collector, for a certain organization. The kind of guy who knew all the angles, knew where the bodies were buried, metaphorically speaking, knew who owed who what, and could talk his way out of a wet paper bag or into a federal witness protection program faster than you could say subpoena. He was Carmine the Mouth, or Carmine the Numbers Guy. That was his life.
So, a past life. A man trying to escape his reputation.
Exactly. But it's more than just escaping, Phil. That's too simple. Carmine, he saw things. He saw the rot. He saw the betrayal. He saw what it did to people, what it did to their families, what it did to him. And he got out. Not with a bang, not with a wire, not with some big dramatic Hollywood moment. He just stopped. One day, he just walked away from it all. Everyone thought he was crazy. Carmine, you're going to end up in the river, they said. But he didn't. He just started baking. And here's where the saint part comes in, Phil. See, people in the neighborhood, they remember Carmine. They remember his eyes, how he always seemed to know more than he let on. And sometimes, when they've got nowhere else to turn, when the system's failed them, when they're being squeezed, when their kid is in trouble, or their old man is getting swindled, or some local tough is leaning on them, they don't go to the cops. They don't go to a lawyer. They go to Carmine. They come into the bakery. They buy a loaf of rye bread, maybe a dozen rainbow cookies. And in the quiet of the shop, while Carmine is wiping down the counter, they tell him their troubles. They confess. And Carmine, he listens. He doesn't say much. He doesn't judge. He just listens.
So he's a confessor. A neighborhood ombudsman, of sorts. A moral authority, if you will.
A moral authority? Yes, you got it, Phil. And that's the beautiful part. Because he doesn't use violence. He doesn't extort. He doesn't betray. He uses information, his old network. His understanding of the psychology of these predators, these weasels, these rats. He knows how they think. Because he was them, almost. He knows how to subtly manipulate, to apply pressure, to uncover the truth, to make a situation right, without ever laying a hand on anyone, without ever breaking a law. He's the guy who can call a guy, who knows a guy, who'll whisper something in the right ear, or subtly expose a hypocrisy, or just gently nudge the world back into balance. He's a whisper campaign for justice. He's a quiet truth teller. He's a fixer. But he fixes things with integrity, with compassion, and with the wisdom of a man who's seen the abyss and walked back from it. And the mental health angle, Phil, that's so important to me. Carmine, he carries his past. He sees a therapist, a really good one, who he pays, inshallah, bread and honest conversation. He struggles with his own demons, with the guilt, with the memories. His heroism isn't flashy. It's an act of daily penance, a way to find redemption, not just for others, but for himself. He's quiet about it. He's never preachy, but his actions scream a different kind of heroism. It's about taking all that baggage, all that dark knowledge, and turning it into light. It's about using your understanding of the brokenness of the world to mend it. One small, quiet act at a time.
Joe, that's genuinely powerful. It's certainly a departure from the characters you famously inhabited. This Carmine sounds like a true moral center, a quiet warrior.
That's it. A quiet warrior. I wanted to show a guy who seems like he could be the shifty guy, the rat, the guy who's going to cut a corner, but he's absolutely, fundamentally, irrevocably good. He's seen the dark side, so he knows how to fight it without becoming it. He's not a superhero. He's not even a cop. He's just a baker with a conscience that weighs a ton and a lifetime of hard-earned wisdom. He's the guy who looks you in the eye and you feel like he's seeing right through your soul, but he's not judging you. He's just understanding you. And he's trying to help. And the arc, Phil, is beautiful. He starts off isolated, doing these things in secret. But slowly, the community starts to recognize him, not as a former gangster, but as the saint. They leave him notes, they bring him little gifts, they protect his anonymity. It's a quiet, profound movement of human connection and redemption. It's about how real heroism isn't always about big explosions or fancy capes, you know? Sometimes it's just about showing up, listening, and knowing how to knead the damn dough. Both literally and figuratively.
I can see it. I truly can. The weight, the quiet dignity, it would allow you to bring all the nuance and lived experience of those earlier roles, but channel it into something profoundly different, a truly redemptive narrative.
Redemptive. That's the word. It's redemptive. Not just for Carmine, but for the audience. For me. But try pitching that to some 20-something studio executive who wants a superhero origin story or some TikTok influencer movie. They look at you, right? Like you got two heads. Joe, we love you. You're amazing. But we see you more as the guy who gets, shot in the head halfway through Act 2. Puffed. Thanks, fellas. Real progressive.
Well, they often miss the subtle beauty, don't they? The projects that truly matter. The ones with heart.
Heart. Exactly. This is all heart, Phil. And soul. And a little bit of sourdough starter, you know? It's too honest, maybe. Too human for them. It doesn't fit their little boxes. So, it sits, it marinates, and maybe one day, when the world's ready for a real hero who just bakes bread and whispers truth, maybe then, the saint of second chances will see the light of day. But for now,
it's a beautiful thought, Joe. A beautiful thought.
yeah, for now. Another time, another world, maybe. You want to grab a coffee? My treat. I know a place that's got real good cannolis.